and I'm a researcher with the University of Ottawa Faculty of Education. Since September of last year, I've been working on a study called Real-World Learning in the Upper Canada District School Board. And the study isn't over, but Cam Jones asked me to create some draft preliminary findings or themes for you to use in your PD today. I hope you find them useful, and if you have any comments or ideas or suggestions, please do let me know. My email is on the screen and I'll show it again at the end. I'm going to keep my comments brief, so I'm going to run through these slides quite quickly. Feel free to pause the screencast if that is helpful. So in the screencast, I am going to mention the two research questions that guide my study, my methodology or approach, the methods that I've used to collect data, a snapshot of where I am in the research process so far, the definition of RWL, a very quick overview of the overall findings I've drawn from the data so far, and then a slightly closer look at the findings most relevant to your work today, those to do with the implications of RWL on teaching and learning and on the lives of students. I'm a former middle and high school teacher myself, and that helped me to shape the two research questions that are guiding my work. This is a qualitative case study. Basically, I am using whatever methods are available to me to study the overall case of RWL in the board, as seen in the individual cases of the particular projects. To date, I've conducted interviews with 25 teachers across the board. I start every interview by asking the teacher to create a simple drawing that communicates their experience of RWL. And we start the conversation with the teacher explaining what they've drawn. I've also visited 2 schools repeatedly, and soon I'll visit some other schools for shorter periods and conduct focus groups with students. All the interviews and visits are transcribed or recorded and then coded, and then I draw the codes into bigger findings or takeaways. So the research is ongoing. Here are the steps that have been followed so far. Last September, I had an initial meeting with Eric, Cam and Kathleen. There were several months of background reading. Then I applied to the University of Ottawa Office of Research, Ethics and Integrity for approval to run the study, and then the work itself has been carried out, which has been a joy. Here is a reminder of the definition of real-world learning and the book that provides the framework for RWL, the relevant classroom. And of course, Eric's text is the basis for what I'm studying and for the amazing work that teachers and students are doing together. This definition comes from a great book called In Search of Deeper Learning. 2 researchers visited schools across the US looking for deeper learning, and about the only places they consistently found it was in high school theatres and sports facilities. Schools were otherwise largely characterized by what the researchers said was teachers pretending to teach and students pretending to learn. So Cam's request for some preliminary themes or findings caused me to review my codes, and I quickly became totally absorbed as I changed hats and began to pull ideas out of the data instead of recording data. I did this while sitting by a lake on Victoria Day, and I got so lost in the task I was eaten alive by mosquitoes and didn't notice. The preliminary findings pull together lots of smaller codes, and then the findings themselves organize themselves into 5 areas, and we're going to look at the first 2. I'm going to send the draft report with these preliminary findings to all the teachers I've spoken with so far, so that they can continue to comment and share their ideas. And I'd be happy to send the report to you too, if you'd like to send me an email. So here is the first part. Teachers describe Eric's 6-part framework and teacher unit planner as a logical and helpful means to plan and implement RWL projects. The ideas and language in the book are in use, they're being applied by teachers and administrators in really useful and impactful ways. I've noticed that educators tend to use 3 techniques to teach through RWL. Students learn a curriculum expectation by working on the project itself, and to build on this, the teacher can shape the project in order to teach a greater variety of expectations. For example, the teacher might add a public speaking element or the creation of a website in order to teach language arts. The second is a teacher will directly teach a concept so that the students will be able to complete a next step in their project. For example, a teacher might teach division in a traditional manner so that the class can do the budget for their grow tower, knowing that the traditional lesson is in aid of a project that they care about contributes to the students' engagement. Third, teachers deliver short, direct lessons on the fly, either to individual students or to larger groups as needs arise. I've heard terms like skill building play days and pocket lessons to describe learning that happens adjacent to the RWL project. Students have more reason to learn because they are committed to the project's goal. Teachers use the halo effect of RWL to inform and draw in much of their teaching. And students have reason to come to school because they enjoy and believe in the work they're doing. And students have a stronger sense of well-being and ownership of their learning, leading them to come to school and enjoy classes in general. Assessment through RWL often draws on conversations and observations in addition to products, because so much of the class time is spent with students working on their task and the teacher facilitating, coaching, and activating the student learning. Ongoing assessment rather than assessment at the end of the unit positively contributes to student learning. RWL leads to greater equity than traditional teaching because students have greater say in the direction the work takes, and the projects include a variety of tasks for students to complete so that everyone is able to find a suitable role. The work is also purposeful and more hands-on, providing access to the learning for a greater range of students and not just those who thrive on traditional tasks. Teachers find that well-designed, multifaceted RWL projects naturally cover curriculum expectations for a variety of subjects, particularly in the primary and junior years. When they consult the curriculum document, they're often surprised by how many overall and specific expectations they have taught. There can be a tension for secondary teachers between going deep in one area of the curriculum on an RWL project versus achieving the breadth demanded by the curriculum, such as 20th century history or teaching a collection of literary texts in different genres. However, subjects like technology, the arts, history, and additional language courses like French lend themselves readily to RWL, and teachers do continue to experiment with ways to enliven their teaching with RWL, with many notable successes. The second set of implications is even more focused on students' lives. Traditional teaching comes through in the research as an enactment of the grammar of schooling, the ways that schooling has basically always been done. Generally, it's teacher-led, it's one size fits all almost, meaning that all the students complete the same tasks at the same time. It's often focused on completing worksheets and exercises. It's often practice-based instead of meaning-led, and it leads to pen and paper type assessments, graded according to abstract and hard to understand criteria. In contrast, RWL is more engaging for students, meaning that they attend to and enjoy and are enthusiastic about their work and they find it more meaningful. RWL projects give students a reason to come to school and a reason to come to class and engage deeply. The halo effect of the RWL projects is felt in other school contexts because RWL gives the students an important role and sometimes a new and improved profile around the school. dysregulated behaviour is often diminished by RWL projects because the student is working on a project that they believe in. Although it is early days in the growth and evolution of RWL, primary teachers and principals who advocate for the framework express concern for what will happen to students who have thrived with RWL, particularly those with exceptional needs, as they move into the upper grades and once again encounter traditional teaching. Even within the same school, students can find it confusing that some classrooms are engaged in meaningful project work with outside partners, and some other classes remain in the classroom with more traditional methods at play. Students with learning exceptionalities can struggle with the limited range of options for engagement, learning and expression in traditional classrooms which are transmission-based. The ideal of the inclusive classroom, as described by UNESCO, is more readily achieved through RWL projects because the work naturally encompasses a wide range of options with each of the three components of the Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, covered. There are lots of opportunities for differentiation, and students with exceptionalities will often thrive in RW classes and achieve new and improved profiles in their school communities. Part of the halo effect of RWL is that students have more varied and interesting topics to discuss with their parents and caregivers. Students also have more reason to interact in purposeful and positive ways with their peers, leading to stronger social bonds. I haven't definitely answered my research questions, but the work so far certainly suggests that RWL does often lead to deeper learning, as I've defined it. I don't have time to mention to you the findings related to the second question, but I will say that the data suggests that teachers' roles and lives are profoundly changed by this work. I'm going to end with a favourite quotation that's come up from a principal, which I included in a recent Ottawa Citizen article. "I'm seeing kids really excited about the things they are doing," he told me. "And now they take ownership of the work they're doing and the school in ways I haven't seen before. We're done with the paper pencil worksheets, the textbooks, filling out the same thing every year. That's not engaging. I can think of 3, maybe 4 occasions in the last 6 months when teachers have been in my office in tears of joy because of the work their kids are doing. That's how powerful this pedagogy is." I'd love to hear your feedback on these findings and your ideas, so please do email me and we can connect. Thank you for listening and watching, and have a great PD day and a wonderful summer.